Welcome to today's explainer. Today, we are going to sit down and look at the massive structural gear shift that happens when you finally hit a $1 million net worth. As a seasoned financial advisor, I've had countless clients sit right across my desk, totally obsessed with this seven-figure milestone. They view it as the ultimate trophy. But what they don't realize until they actually get there is that $1 million isn't a finish line at all. It's actually an entirely new starting line where the fundamental math of your life flips completely upside down. So if you were sitting across the desk from me right now, here is the roadmap we'd walk through. 1. The $1 million myth. 2. Defining the crossover point. 3. The math of automatic wealth. 4. The perks of seven figures. And finally, 5. The advisor's ultimate rule. All right, let's jump right into part 1, the $1 million myth, and why hitting a million is a structural shift, not just a bigger pile of cash. First things first, we really need to shatter the myth that hitting a million is just some celebratory finish line. Most people think $1 million just means you have, well, a bigger pile of money than you did at 500,000. But mathematically, that is just not what happens. Once you hit this threshold, your money actually starts paying you a silent second salary that scales entirely by itself. It means the wealth snowball no longer relies on your daily labor. At a standard 7% market return, $1 million throws off about $70,000 a year, and that happens whether you show up to work, take a Tuesday afternoon nap, or go on a month-long vacation. The snowball has officially stopped needing you to push it. Which brings us to section 2, defining the crossover point. This is the exact moment your capital outworks your labor. Let's compare 3 disciplined 38-year-old savers I might actually see in my office. They are all putting away $1,500 a month. But look at Mark's 10-year result. He ends up with $2.2 million. His existing million did all the heavy lifting, earning him $1.2 million that he never had to physically work for. Meanwhile, Diana and Carla, putting in the exact same monthly sweat equity, see a fraction of that growth. For Mark, his actual paycheck became the smallest contributor to his net worth. The portfolio simply took over. And this right here illustrates the ultimate paradigm shift. Before you hit this threshold, you are the engine sweating for every single dollar. You scrape, you cut, you save, and your salary builds your net worth brick by brick. But afterward, the capital takes over entirely. The dial completely breaks away from your paycheck. Your portfolio is now the engine, and you enter a phase of harvesting rather than depleting. In the advisory industry, we call this the crossover point. It's the exact moment your portfolio out-earns your active income. It's the year when the silent returns of your investments cross over and literally become larger than the salary you bring home from your day job. This is the precise structural shift that makes wealth truly automatic. For $1 million portfolio earning a 7% return, that crossover number is roughly $70,000. Think about that for a second. That effectively drops the median American household salary right into your lap while you sleep. Below this line, you have to keep working to fund your life. Above this line, you don't. Your portfolio handles the bills, and you handle, well, whatever you want. Moving on to section 3, the math of automatic wealth and the invisible engines of compounding. Look, that first million is absolutely the hardest. It usually takes a super disciplined saver around 14 to 20 years. But once you cross it, the gears change completely. Using the rule of 72, which is a classic finance formula where you divide 72 by your expected return, we can see exactly how fast things accelerate. At a historic 7% return, Mark's money will effortlessly double roughly every 10 years. He hits his first million at 38. By 48, he has $2 million. By 58, $4 million. By 68, he's sitting on $8 million. This turns his initial million into $8 million by retirement age without him ever needing to add another single dime of his own savings. The first million took a decade and a half of brutal discipline. The next 7 million takes 30 years of literally doing nothing. Now, you might be wondering, how do we safely interact with this money? As advisors, we heavily rely on the Trinity Studies 4% rule. This shows that you can safely withdraw $40,000 in year 1, adjust it for inflation annually, and likely never run out of money. It gives you a steady income indefinitely. Basically, you are collecting the eggs without ever eating the golden goose. You harvest the gains while your underlying capital stays perfectly stable or even continues to grow. Okay, but what about the silent enemy in the room? Inflation. Below $1 million, inflation slowly eats your savings. You feel it at the grocery store even if you don't notice it in your bank balance. At $1 million, a 3% inflation rate costs you $30,000 a year. Ouch, right? But here's the beauty of it. The market defense completely absorbs the hit. Historically returning 10% before inflation, your portfolio just eats that loss and still leaves you with a 7% real net gain. It's growing your real purchasing power every single year while everyone else is running on a treadmill. And here is the absolute kicker. I point this out to my clients all the time when they hit this bracket. The IRS actually rewards capital over labor. Your long-term portfolio gains are taxed at roughly half the rate of your hardest earned wages. Wage income maxes out around 37%, right? But long-term capital gains, they cap out around 20%. Every additional dollar you earn from your investments is taxed far less than the dollars you earn sweating at your 9 to 5. Let's look at Section 4, the perks of 7 figures, because this is about multiplying options, not just money. Beyond all the math, crossing into 7 figures structurally changes how you navigate your career and your entire life. It doesn't just multiply your money, it fundamentally multiplies your options. Having $1 million transforms a sudden job loss from a total crisis into, well, a sabbatical. It gives you the spine to negotiate harder, say no to bad deals, and start playing offense with your life. You're no longer playing defense, worrying about rent or credit cards. You can start a business, move to a new city, or simply speak your mind in a corporate meeting because that baseline stress of needing your next paycheck to survive is just gone forever. Your portfolio literally bought you the right to say no. And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, the advisor's ultimate rule, the psychology of not touching the money. Here is the harsh truth. Reaching $1 million is mathematical, but keeping it is purely structural and psychological. The hustle and pure willpower that got you your first $1 million can actually ruin you now. Why? Because keeping your wealth requires extreme, boring patience. The biggest danger is that you've just spent 20 years training your hustle muscle. You are totally used to action. But past $1 million, you have to embrace inaction. The absolute biggest mistake I see clients make is getting off the compounding train a stop early. They hit $1 million, they feel the math shift, and boom, they cash out for a luxury item like a boat or a massive new house. Or even worse, they panic sell the second the market gets choppy and move everything to cash out of fear. Actually, scratch that. It's more like they confuse not selling with not winning. So they overtrade. They chase hot tips. They sabotage themselves right as the snowball is finally heavy enough to roll entirely on its own. Legendary investor Charlie Munger really hit the nail on the head when he said, "The big money isn't in the buying or the selling, it's in the waiting." The richest people on earth often make the absolute fewest changes to their portfolios. They don't react to flashy headlines or try to outsmart the market every week. So here is the ultimate reality check. Once you hit this milestone, you officially become an employee of your own portfolio, and your only real job requirement is to exercise restraint and not interrupt the compounding. Up until this point, you were the boss of your savings rate. Now the portfolio is the boss, and its only demand of you is that you do not sell. Don't try to get clever, just let the math do its job, because automatic wealth is completely silent. So, the final provocative question I have to leave you with today before we wrap up this explainer is simply this. Can you actually sit still and let the math do its job? Getting to $1 million is all about how much you save, but staying a millionaire is entirely about how long you can leave it alone. The math is guaranteed, but only if you have the restraint to let it work. Think about that as you map out your financial future.